become the supreme effort facing the New World Order. Now, we've been in a track race. That's the only way to describe it. And as with any track race, we've had to keep pace with our enemy. Now, if you've ever been involved with track or cross-country, at first what you'll do is pace and identify the capabilities of your enemy. And, of course, you're busy maintaining pace and speed with him. You're not trying to overrun, you're not trying to outtake, but you also don't want to get behind. We have many assets and many resources within the Patriot movement, and obviously, videotapes and audio communication are one of our best. They're not controlled by the regular media. They're not one of the centrally manipulated sources that the other side can control at this time. But if you saw the State of the Union address, of course, only a few short days ago, then you will know that we're now talking about things like the V chip. Technology which, of course, before was being laughed at, is now being openly presented across the United States. A veritable plethora of data is now available and before you, and we're going to be demonstrating, of course, in this tape, this presentation, virtually all of the information that, of course, was discussed in American Peril 1 and 2, and in 3 is now the reality of America with a K. Example, and of course this is happening only in the last year and a half to 2 years, we have the Atlanta Constitution, Friday, May 6, 1994, and amazingly enough, on the front page, what should show up but sea change in the crime debate. Oh, I should remind you that unlike the first 2 tapes, and of course our original works, the crime bill passed, along with many other pieces of legislation, which, if you'll recall, both with the Clintonistas, Bill Clinton and the Hillerite, along with George Bush, stated would never take place in America in our lifetime. Well, sea change is an interesting phrase that you're going to see crop up all over the country, but in most cases, as with this Atlanta constitutional article, there is nothing with regard to a reference in the body of this article that will tell you anything about sea change, what it means, what it's about, what it has to do with. One of the reasons for this, well, amazingly enough, what we have is a situation where the key phrase itself was enough for the other side to coordinate their resources, their operations. What have they accomplished, of course, in the last 3 years? When I say they, let's use the proper term, New World Order, and don't worry, we're going to validate it throughout this entire piece. Amazingly enough, we have seen, for instance, the World Trade Organization in final act embodying the results of the Uruguay round of the multilateral trade negotiations, also known, of course, as GATT. Now, while GATT is not obsolete, remember, GATT was only a step in the right direction towards a New World Order, as our opposition would say. The founding works, of course, were done over a period of 20 years, and the objective was to ease us into the New World Order. The New World Order crowd themselves couldn't slap us into position. They had to, of course, boil us like a frog, taking their time and adding more and more legislation. Well, GATT actually, though, is not the only issue we have to deal with now, for we now have the World Trade Organization. Both GATT and NAFTA's mission were to, of course, manipulate and orchestrate the U.S.-American economy in such a way that they would be able to, shall we say, usurp our own system against us. The World Trade Organization is going to be the final word. There will be no debate, there is no discussion, as you all know, and there is much information that can be accessed for both the experienced and the novice investigator. And the World Trade Organization, well, it's one step in the right direction, as both George Bush and Bill Clinton stated. Many other pieces, though, can demonstrate where we're headed. And probably the next best example, which, by the way, of course, we were also told would never pass in our lifetime, is, as you can see, November 19th, Legislative Day, November 2nd, 1993, ordered and printed as passed in the Senate of the United States. This is the Omnibus Crime Package, ladies and gentlemen. And this is, of course, the assault weapons ban, the first inklings of the new anti-terrorism legislation, and, of course, was based upon, well, as we've demonstrated in the past, Public Law 100-690. We can reference these texts and progressively, like an archaeologist, peel back different layers to show you where we've come from, and, of course, by doing that, demonstrate where we are headed. There's a great deal of debate right now over, of course, the path that should be taken, and even in the New World Order's ranks, we're seeing a tremendous amount of work that is being befuddled by debate, in a way. Now, there's also a fear on the part of the New World Order crowd because a new formula has had to develop with regard to actions inside the United States. The Patriot movement itself, ladies and gentlemen, has been very successful. In fact, so much so that we have virtually changed the path of the New World Order. We cannot stop it, so instead we are deflecting its energies. Now, does that mean that we are going to give up in defeat? No, we first have to identify the threat. We've had to demonstrate to many people time and again the capabilities, the information, the resources that are on hand. And then, rather than just whining about the problem, we are also demonstrating solutions. Now, make no mistake about it, and I'm never going to back down on this, we fully support the militia concept and are growing at a regular rate. But in addition to the militia, we must also be involved legislatively. We must be involved at the local level. Government, especially good government, is crucial. Now, nature abhors a vacuum, and one of the things the New World Order first would like to do is create chaos. Look to your regular newspapers today, the controlled media. Take a look at Communist News Network, CNN. Take a look at ABC, NBC, CBS. What are we seeing right now? Well, what we're seeing are a series of preambles to the crises to come. Mexico on the horizon. Canada in revolt with Quebec. An entire scenario with, of course, everything from a desperate attempt to try and fabricate race wars in the United States, including, of course, actions in the inner cities, and, of course, animosities generated by the controlled media. It's our objective and the mission of the Patriot Movement and, of course, those people facing the New World Order to educate the many people that are out there waiting, and that's what your task is. We've challenged many people time and again, and in fact, the first purpose of American Peril, which was not copyrighted, was to educate individuals, to force them to think, to challenge what it was that was being said. Many people, of course, go into denial, and probably one of you that are listening right now would be the first nodding your head and admitting that. Well, we have a mountain of books. We have a mountain of legislation. Most of it can't be put on a single spool over a few hours. But what we're going to do is demonstrate again just exactly how far the enemy has come. And when I say the enemy, I mean the New World Order. Now let me give you a good example. In their own works, and there are many to choose from, we have, of course, the NARC Officer, official publication of the International Narcotics Enforcement Officers Association, Incorporated. This is September to October of 1995, and of course Robert M. Morgenthau, District Attorney, New York County, is the cover child of the day, poster child, if you will. Well, what was so important about this particular issue? Well, ladies and gentlemen, Lucid and the Counterterrorism Act of 1995. This particular piece is crucial because it demonstrates national ID card concepts, working into the program and integrating the international perspective with regard to fingerprints, photographs, ID, the workplace, and of course allowing other agencies, not American agencies, to access the database here in the United States. The NCIC has been compromised by the present administration, including the FBI director, Mr. Freya, who is now allowing the Soviets, the Russians, to access our entire database at their discretion. Now, doesn't somebody have a problem with this? There are very few, if any, KGB personnel who are, shall we say, standing in bread lines. So what we have is a problem where the same butchers who have been killing people in Russia for well over 70 years, responsible for more than 3 specific purges, in some cases with over 20 million people at a time dying, these people, and the ones who were trained by them, are now the individuals who can access these communications nets and this data that we're seeing today. Is there a problem here? Well, absolutely. What we have is a situation where, through gradualism, we're merging with the the Russians. Hey, is this a problem? Well, for me it is, and many other Americans who, with any common sense, can see that there are difficulties on the horizon. First of all, we're seeing the rumblings of the same old Soviet, and I will not correct myself with regard to that.